Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, one of all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. One of the double honors to my apostles at Great Millstone, who taught me his truth, and a sincere Shalom to elect out there, teach his truth in all honesty and sincerity in these last days. Alright, and this is going to be a commentary. Okay. Commentary slash response on this video that Apostle Gabar did called Yahweh Shai is not Yahweh. Diet, Rock Gabar, a great example of faith. Okay. And I want to give a response to the part where it talks about diet. Okay, because he had mentioned about how he was looking into the so-called carnivore diet. Okay. Now, a few years ago, I got to give a quick testimony on that. I wasn't on what's known as a strict carnivore. You know, it wasn't like a strict carnivore because there's many variations of the carnivore diet. Okay. You know, and he mentioned also in this video ketovore. I believe ketovore is a meat-based version of the keto diet, where you pretty much just eat meat and berries. Now, the variation that I did was known as the animal-based, where you eat like pretty much meat, eggs, grass-fed butter, ghee, and I mainly stuck with raw honey. You know, and low sugar fruits like berries. Once in a while, I ate some, high sugar fruits, but I'd try and be intelligent with it. Keep it around my workouts. Or just when I wanted something sweet, because hey, at least if I'm, eating something that's high in sugar, at least it's gonna be fruit. Okay, and these diets are really good if you have insulin resistance or digestive issues. Okay. Now, what it did for me was I was having a lot of kidney issues at the time and digestive issues. Okay. I was suffering from a lot of bloat and a lot of, bad digestion. Like I felt sick all the time in the morning time. It took me like 2 hours just to get the fuck out of bed. And my legs were filling up with just pounds and pounds and pounds of fluid. It looked like there was, my feet looked all puffy. I could barely fit them in my shoes. My knees looked like they had small baseballs growing out of them. And I had all kinds of bloat and sickness, man. And pretty much that diet healed my kidneys as well. Okay, not just my digestive issues and my so-called insulin resistance. Okay, now the kidneys are extremely important in the body because that's like the detoxifier. That's one of the main filter organs in the body is the kidneys. Okay, so if your kidneys start acting up, you're gonna feel sick all the time. You're gonna have brain fog. You're just gonna feel poisoned. Okay, it's a very serious issue in modern day, as far as modern day people are concerned, man. because the diets that we eat promote bad kidney health. Okay, foods that are high in fat and carbs at the same time. I mean, high amounts of sugar is bad for it. You know, greasy foods like seed oils. Okay, just greasy foods in general, especially when you combine them with high carbs, it makes it much, much worse. Okay, basically the standard American diet. You know. But anyways, all that cleared up. You know, I went on that diet for like a year, maybe a little more, and I lost a good amount of weight, lost a good amount of inflammation. You know, I felt great. I felt really strong physically. Okay, I had better energy. My thoughts were better and more clear. I wasn't all because when your kidneys get messed up and your blood sugar's high, you get moody and you can't help it. You can't help it because the body's out of balance, man. You know, you're not healthy. You know, when you're not healthy, your body's all out of balance, and your mind starts to get messed up, man. You know, that's the most important thing in this truth is keeping your mind. The scriptures say, "In your patience possess ye your souls." Okay, and when you're constantly suffering like that, it's a test of your patience, man. And you could lose your patience and have an error of judgment and do and say things, okay, that aren't exactly spiritual or in the right spirit, you know. And the Lord keeps tab of those things, man. You know, the Lord keeps tabs of those things, man. But yeah, it's when your body's unhealthy, man. It's a non-stop. Uh, it's a non-stop struggle, man. Okay, it's a lot of great suffering involved with that, physically and as well as mentally. And I thought I would just make a video on this because the scriptures say that iron sharpeneth iron. Okay, iron sharpeneth iron, man. When you see brothers make a video on a topic, you may watch 3 videos on the same topic by different brothers, and each brother may bring out a point that wasn't brought out by another brother, or may explain it in a different way, so you could go deeper into it. And this diet stuff is really, it's simple, but it's deep. Okay, it's simple, but it's deep, man. And we can all really learn from each other. We could all really learn from each other, man. Now, the Apostle Gabar did say in the video that you pretty much, well, paraphrasing him, that you have to find out what works for you. You don't necessarily have to go strict carnivore like he is, okay? Because I believe the way he's doing it is he's just having like basically meat, animal fats. I think he said he was putting lemon in his water and basically salts and electrolytes. Okay, probably bone broth and beef tallow, things like that. That's what you would consider a strict carnivore. All right, and hey, if if it's on pretty much, man, if you're eating good and staying away from the sad, you could eat a little junk every now and then, man. It's just like the apostle was saying, man. You need to see what works for your body, okay? Because you may have, like for instance, nuts. Now, I'm not a big advocate of nuts, but some people can handle nuts. If I eat nuts, man, I get all itchy. They make my allergies act up. I get bloated. I feel like shit, even though they taste great. Right? Who don't like the taste of some almond butter? You know? Certain foods affect certain brothers differently. If you have really good insulin sensitivity, okay, and your digestive health is good, you may not need to go on a so-called carnivore diet. Okay? You may be able to handle a more wider spectrum of foods. But let me also add this, okay? If you notice what Esau Edom has been coming at lately, you know, he's been coming at meat, okay? At meat. He's always got his celebrities in his media pushing these fucking plant-based diets, okay? And it's predominantly to keep men being pussies. Okay, because they know that these plant-based, a lot of people don't have the stomachs anymore to handle these plant-based diets. Because these plant-based diets are really harsh on your stomach, man. And if you can't digest the food properly, you're not getting anything out of it. Because it all starts with the gut. Okay? And Esau Edom, not just when he had our people in slavery, but also during, the time of serfs, so on and so forth, the medieval times. All right. He used to use meat as a weapon against the people, man. You didn't want the slaves to eat too much meat because it would make them stronger. Okay. Now back to what I was saying before, man. Figure out what works for you. Okay? Figure out what works for you, man. I'm not going to sit here and tell brothers, if their bodies can handle a certain type of food, not to eat it. But do what works for you. If you eat a bunch of salads and you feel all bloated and heavy and like shit, then maybe it's not for you. Okay? But the animal based diet that I was on, okay, was pretty much meat, eggs, grass fed butter, ghee, raw honey. You can include beef tallow in there if you want, and certain fruits. That's something that people can easily follow, man. You don't have to be super picky, okay, about everything you eat. Okay, that seems very. It seems like there's a lot of balance there, man. If you want something sweet, you can have a piece of fruit. If you want something fatty, you could have a fatty steak or something. Some eggs cooked in butter or whatever. All right, and that brings me to another point that the apostle made in this video. Okay, about the fruits, and this is true. Okay, this is true. I researched this. Fruits used to have a lot less sugar than they do now. All right, fruits used to have a lot less sugar than they do now. A peach 100 years ago used to have about 50% less sugar than it has now. Think about how sweet a peach is when you bite into it. Same thing with dates. Dates used to have a lot less sugar. Okay? Same thing with tomatoes. Tomatoes really don't have much sugar, but they got a little bit, And they used to have a lot more magnesium back then. Okay? So you got to always look at it like that. The apples used to have a lot less sugar. So Esau's using these healthy things against us, man. All right? And the scriptures say that what he was gonna turn everything upside down, like it says in Isaiah 29, and I believe it's the 16th verse. Okay? Everything is ass backwards in this society. You got the women ruling over the men, right? Children are their oppressors. It's in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, right? They're not honoring the land Sabbath. Okay? They're making us eat these Franken foods, okay? And the foods that are good for you, he's altering them on such a level to where they're really not even good for you anymore. Even the meats. If you can get the good grass fed meat, man. Okay, get that grass fed meat. You know. But I'm gonna bring this scripture out. This is Sirach 30, and I might still go on and on because there's a few more things that I want to touch up on. Okay, but you use wisdom, brothers. Experiment, man. Experiment a little bit. Okay. And another thing that I see is, or that I've researched is, a lot of these herbs that we take. Okay, they're not meant to be taken for long periods of time because they could have adverse effects. See, that's the thing. That's the problem with a lot of vegetables. They got a lot of. They're like a double-edged sword in some ways, man. You know, a lot of the vegetables. Okay, like if you look up foods that are bad for the kidneys, you'll see spinach on there and kale because they're loaded with oxalates. Okay, they're loaded with oxalates, man. And when you go on that carnivore based diet, okay, your body's going to filter a lot of those oxalates out after, let's say, a couple months. It takes a few months to filter the oxalates out. Okay, and you're going to notice when you do that your knees are going to be a lot better, your shoulders, your elbows are going to be a lot better, your spine's going to be a lot more free because that's where a lot of them stick in your joints and your bones and that. Okay, basically mineral deposits, calcified minerals that are all over your body, man, from them fucking vegetables. Well, I mean, there's other foods that have them. Pretty much everything has a little bit of oxalates. But yeah, the vegetables are loaded with that shit. Beans, beans are loaded with it, man. You know, and beans. Even though a lot of these plant-based people tout about beans, right? They don't ever want to talk about the tannins. Okay, they don't ever want to talk about the tannins or any of the other things in there. Okay, and the anti-nutrients or any of that shit. There's things in beans that prevent nutrient absorption. The same thing with the nuts. A lot of these vegetables, man. There's tannins in a lot of that shit, man. Okay, because really the plant doesn't want you to eat it. It wants you to eat its fruit. Okay, because when the plant dies, it can't produce no more fruit. Okay, it wants you to eat its fruit. It doesn't want you to eat its the plant itself. Okay. Yeah, nobody wants to talk about the dark side of the plants, man. Okay, and they can be a beautiful thing if used right. But a lot of these herbs, man, you know, they have double edged swords. I mean, just look at cinnamon. Okay, cinnamon has some benefits, but it also has some negatives, man. It's very hard on the liver if you take a lot of it. Okay, you look at turmeric. Okay, it has its health benefits, but it's been shown to be estrogenic, and if you take it for too long, too high of a dosage, it's not exactly for best for your gut or for your liver and kidneys. Okay, that's one thing that I've noticed with a lot of the vegetables and certain herbs. Man, they damage it. The main things that they damage is the liver and the kidneys. Okay, so I'm in agreement with Apostle Gabar because I've done this. I've seen the results. I tried all that vegetarian bullshit, man. All right, Esau just wants you to be a fucking tree hugging hippie at the end of the day. Okay, now if you're a brother and it's helped you, it's beautiful. But this is Sirach 30 and 14. Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution. Okay, so that this is why you need to invest in your health. Okay, because investing in your health, it might make you poor, man. And I know a lot of brothers out there are already struggling, but if you manage your funds right, one of these diets are doable. Okay, you may not be able to go totally all in, but at the end of the day, man, healthier food, if you really pay attention to it, healthier food is a lot fucking cheaper than eating out all the damn time and eating junk food a lot of the time, man. Okay? So it's worth it to invest in your health. Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution than a rich man that is afflicted in his body. So it's better to be healthy and strong and poor than to be than to have a lot of substance, man. Health and good estate of body are above all gold. Let me read this again. Health and good estate of body are above all gold. Okay? And a strong body above infinity wealth. When you brothers change into one of these diets, I mean, I'm not on it anymore. I've included more foods, but I still stick to something called the 80-20 rule. Actually, it's more like 90-10 these days. Where 90% of my foods are very healthy. I pretty much live off of meat, eggs, fruit. I guess the only real thing that I've included other than the meat and fruit is occasionally I'll eat some rice or something. Or Ezekiel bread. That's pretty much it, man. It's my one outlier food. But hey, Ezekiel bread makes me feel good and it doesn't give me any problems. If it gives you problems, then you should cut it out. Health and good estate of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinity wealth. There is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. Okay? And that's one thing that you'll notice, especially when you get your blood sugar under control and you get your body, your organs healthy. Because that's one of the things that a carnivore diet's been known to do. It's been known to heal people's organs. Okay? Because they're easy to digest foods, and they're foods that aren't too taxing on the body. Okay? Because meats aren't really taxing on the body. Certain fruits really aren't taxing on the body. Okay, they're not stressful for the liver, they're not stressful for the kidneys. Okay, they're easy to digest. They're just easy on your whole system, man. Okay, and when that goes on, included with some intermittent fasting, okay, which I wasn't doing it every day, but I was doing it, going through little phases where I was, but over time your organs will heal themselves and increase in function. All right, there is no riches above a sound body and no joy above the joy of the heart. Okay, because when you're healthy, man, you immediately feel better about yourself. You have a more clear mind. You just have a better mood overall. Okay, and we deal with enough depression and bullshit living here in Babylon, man. You might as well make the best of the worst. You might as well make the best of your shitty situation. All right, because it's stressful enough being in this fucking place, man. Death is better than a bitter life or continual sickness. Okay? Death is better than a bitter life or continual sickness. All right? So it's better to be dead. It's better to be fucking dead. Okay? Than to deal with constantly being sick and going through ailments, man. And, when I was going through that, there were times when I didn't want to wake up. Okay, there were times when I wouldn't want to wake up and just have the Lord just, remove me, bring me to the spirit realm. Okay? Uh, this is down into the 25th verse. A cheerful and good heart will have a care of his meat and diet. Okay? A cheerful and good heart will have care of his meat and his diet. Okay? So we're supposed to have that care over our diet, man. Because that's one of the scriptures say that we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. And what does it say before that, actually? Okay? It says before that, lest Satan should get advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. It's one of the ways that Satan gets advantage over us is through the foods out there, as well as his marketing. Okay, the way he influences people into eating the diets that he wants. So he figures, oh well, if a lot of people are going to go on a health kick, let's give them the wrong health kick. All right, let's tell them to be fucking vegans. Right? Now, me personally, I don't think that you should go on carnivore. I'm talking strict carnivore forever, you know. But hey, brothers got to judge that for themselves when they go through it, When you go through a strict carnivore phase, you'll know exactly when you should start introducing other foods. 3 John 1:1. The elder unto the well-beloved Gaius, whom I love in the truth. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. Okay? So even as our soul prospers, right, and we grow in this knowledge, it's beneficial to us. It's important for the hopeful elect to try and be in good health, man. Okay? Try and be in good health, man. But with that, I believe I've said everything I needed to say. You know, until next time, shalom. Peace and blessings to you elect.